New town, new jail cell. Kyle North can't seem to change his luck or his ways. Or can he? If Kai doesn't cut a deal with the law, he'll swing from the hangman's noose. Find out what happens next on The Reef, episode number 8. Welcome to the serialized audiobook The Reef, written by Scott Sigler and Matt Wallace. Narrated by Scott Sigler. Hello, junkies. Welcome to episode number 8 of The Reef. In this episode, do things finally turn around for Kyle North? With Mr. Tong killed by acid, Gabriel horribly disfigured, and Kai arrested, it certainly doesn't look like it. But let's see what happens. Here we go with episode number 8 of The Reef. Chapter 12. The Marshal. It was another full day before Panama finally came to release Kai from his miniature cell. During that time, he found out both how difficult and how messy it was to use that hole in the middle of his cell floor. She undid his shackles remotely, then threw him his clothes, the same ones he'd balled up before his acid bath. The pants were still filthy. The Reef Stompers jersey wasn't that bad, though. It was still mostly white. Getting dressed in the cramped space proved to be a challenge. Once he'd dressed, she'd ordered him to put the wrist shackles back on. Only then did she open the cell and let him crawl out. He felt 3 feet shorter. His back had 100 tiny fists made of broken glass ceaselessly battering his spine. He was starving, dehydrated, sleep-deprived. He had little to no clue how he had kept his sanity. And he'd had no choice. He'd made that stinking hole stink a little worse. Just being able to stand up again was its own kind of freedom. His body was unhappy with him. He chose to ignore his burns and his cuts, even the familiar throb of his damaged knee. If this was his last day, he wouldn't spend it worrying about a little discomfort. Panama, hand on the hilt of her spitter, gestured up a flight of stone stairs. Kai went up, found himself in a sheriff's station, larger and more elaborate than the crumbling lawman sheds of Break My Back. He saw 4 workers at desks, working away. Panama followed along behind him. He thought of asking her what was happening, but if she had wanted to share information, she would have done so unprompted. He shuffled along in front of her, wrists still shackled. As they strode through the halls, Kyle realized it wasn't a sheriff's station. It was a courthouse. During his time on the Reef, he'd never even seen a court of law, let alone been inside of one. They slowly ascended a long flight of stairs. Kai found himself standing in an antechamber facing 2 tall double doors. He was led through them into a large office. There was very little technology in the space. The battered wood furniture looked like it had been plucked from an ancient time. A tall, older man with a white, well-kempt beard was leaning against a desk. He wore simple clothes, scuffed brown boots, blue jeans, a red and black checkered button-up shirt. On the left breast of that shirt, a gleaming brass star. "They told me you was all messed up," the man said. "I wasn't expecting this level of ugly. Is there any part of you that ain't hurt?" Kai looked at his left hand, mocked being surprised to see the bandage there. "One part," he said. Then he raised his right hand and flipped the old man the middle finger. The old man smiled, lining his weathered face with deep wrinkles. "Attitude," he said. "Imagine that. What's your name, son?" "Lash Kari." The man shook his head. "How about we dispense with any and all bull, Mr. North?" Kyle froze. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in almost 2 years. "You can relax," the old man said. "In fact, have a seat." The man stepped away from the desk. Kyle noted he walked with a cane that was topped with what appeared to be a judge's gavel. "My name is Sidel Curry. I used to be town judge. I recently resigned from that position. I am now a reef marshal." Kai lowered himself into a chair at least a size too small for his massive frame. It creaked in protest, but held together all the same. There aren't any reef marshals. You're looking at one. Kai looked at the man's brass star. Marshal, huh? For which town? This one. But you're human. Local Quith leaders don't hold it against me. Nor does Panama. She's my deputy. I don't imagine you should get hung up on it either. Kyle nodded dumbly. In addition to being the town constable, Curry said, I am also the newly appointed senior marshal of the reef, but we'll get to all that in a moment. Kai couldn't shake the feeling that his number was up. At least a hanging would have been relatively quick. If he was extradited off the reef, Greedock the Splithead would find out he was alive. Kai's dying days would turn into dying months. Dying years, maybe. How do you know who I am? The marshal who pulled you out of that rubble is a fight fan, Curry said. He's watched every one of Korak the Cutter's bouts. Yours he probably watched 24 times. We're a long ways away from everything, Mr. North, but all news gets here eventually. The news of your death, though, seems to be a tad incorrect. I ain't no doctor, but you seem alive to me. Kai took a deep breath. He should have known his anonymity couldn't last. He should have seen this coming. How many trillions of sentients had watched that fight? Thinking he could just walk around anywhere, even in the ass end of the galaxy, had been idiotic. So you know who I am. Does that change things? Who you are? No. Curry shook his head. Who you really are doesn't change anything. But what you are, that's what we've all been debating the past couple of days. Pam, take off those shackles and then leave us be. The half-faced woman side-eyed Kai. You sure, Marshal? He's playing as nice as a kitty cat, but you know he ain't nice at all. Curry waved off her concerns. Panama shrugged. She hit the remote. Kai's shackles fell to the floor. She left the office and shut the door behind her. Kai had no idea what was happening. So you're going to hang me yourself or send me back to known space where Greedock the Splithead's thugs can spend some quality time getting to know my internal anatomy? Don't like either of those options, Curry said. I'll propose a third. Your past is irrelevant. You obviously wanted Kyle North to be dead. That's your business. No one on my team is going to try and bring him back to life. It was one thing to accept death, another entirely for some jackass to make that acceptance waver with a flicker of hope that would soon be taken away. Kai had done more bad in his life than he cared to remember, but he had never been this cruel. I find it hard to believe my past doesn't matter when it would be child's play for you to make money off it. We got a saying around these parts. Back there is back there. Out here is out here. I have more pressing matters to concern myself with than the past of a man who's trying to leave it back there. To that end, I would like to show you something. He motioned Kyle out of the chair. Curry walked over to a broad, blank table. It was one of the few pieces of metal furniture in the office. He punched a key on its side. An elaborate holographic display sprang to life. It was a multicolored topographical map of thousands of square kilometers of the reef. Every town and settlement and trading post was highlighted. At least that's what it looked like to Kyle before the image began to fizzle and flicker, then died altogether. Son of a holy man! Curry slapped the table. The holographic landscape blinked back to life. There we go. All right. This is the reef as we know it. The Western Hemisphere, anyway. It spans... The image died a second time. Bastard! Curry slapped the table again. The image didn't come back. He used his gavel cane and hit it harder. Kyle would have found the situation funny if he weren't so confused. Curry eventually punched himself out. His breathing grew ragged, his face flushed. Oh, to hell with it, he said. Curry half-hobbled over to an ancient-looking wooden cabinet. He removed an arm-length tube from it, carried it back to the table. Curry opened one end of the tube and let the contents slide out. It was a roughly textured black plastic cylinder tapered to a point on both ends. Curry picked it up. "This here is a model of the reef." "Well, what do you know?" Kai said. "It really does look like a giant turd." Curry held the model with one hand, used the gavel cane top to point to a tiny half-sphere, a bit of white embedded in the black. "You are here," he said. Kai understood. That dome was Kick My Nuts. Barely a dot, it put the reef's vast size into perspective. He looked from one end of the turd-shaped model to the other, surprised at the number of domes he saw. "I had no idea there were this many towns." "They ain't all populated," Curry said. "Some are ghost towns. Whatever deposit they were mining ran out. Still, a lot are populated, though, and there's a lot of untouched area. A lot of deposits yet to be found. A lot of money yet to be made. Trouble is, all this open area is like candy for every roving gang. All this distance between towns is ideal for any wannabe king with the muscle and will to take a town over. Up until now, there's been no organized law to stop them." "Until now?" Curry set the model on the table. "Myself and some others been working for a time to form a law enforcement service that would cover the whole reef. That time has come." Kai pointed to the model. "You want to ride herd on the turd, so to speak?" Curry's eyes narrowed, white eyebrows furrowed. "Boy, I was born here, which means you're talking about my homeworld." A fast reminder that this man could decide Kai's fate. "Fair enough," Kai said. "But every settlement has its own sheriffs or constables or whatever, and most of those are in the bag of one gangster or another. I don't think the towns would go for it." "It's the towns that are behind it, starting here." Curry touched the dot that represented Kick My Nuts. "Panama and I took it upon ourselves to take out the Spindlekin gang. Once we did that, we picked up a few recruits. We spread out to other towns within riding distance." He touched other domes. "We're now the county of Kiraharrick. That county's policed by the reef marshals and governed by the Kiraharrick court." Those few words made the model of the reef look somehow different. "A county. But a county is part of a bigger state or a nation. If you're going to play nation builder, why not declare this your own country?" Curry sighed. He waited. And then Kai figured it out. "You're going to try and unify the entire reef," Kai said. "You want the reef to be your nation." Curry nodded. "Eventually." Kai started to laugh, but choked it back, remembering he'd already insulted this man once. "It's a death wish," Kai said. "The gangs from every town surrounding your little county outnumber whatever force you can muster, 100 to 1 at least. Once word gets out about what you're doing, they'll crush you." "They'll certainly try, but we have a plan." A plan that would surely end in a messy death for all involved. "Well, story time's been fun, old man, but I don't see the point. I get into brawls now and then, but I'm not a gangster, and I could give a damn about your marshal service. You might want to save the scared straight talk for someone else. I'm not a criminal." The words were barely out of Kai's mouth before he remembered beating up Bernard, stealing the man's money. Yes, Kai was a criminal. "Not trying to scare you, dumbass," Curry said. "I'm offering you a job. Not just a job, a home. You could belong to something bigger than you, help build something that will live on long after you're under the slate. I want you to be a marshal." Kai stared at the man. This made no sense. A marshal? In Break My Back, he couldn't even get a job as a bodyguard. He couldn't get any job at all. "I don't think my reputation makes me law enforcement material." "Well, Lashkari's reputation doesn't," Curry said. "I wouldn't wipe my wrinkled ass with that reputation. On the other hand, Kyle North's reputation among the Quyth, the right Quyth, is exceptional. They say you're a warrior unmatched, even among them. They say You understand honor as few humans do. Frankly, I'd be an idiot and unfit for this job if I failed to recruit such a rare asset, let alone allow him to be put to death on my watch. Kyle North, a lawman. This is ridiculous, Kai said. If word gets out I'm alive, I'll be a target. If word does get out, which it might not, you will be a target wearing a badge. A target that carries a spitter and has the right to use it. I was hoping that you were the kind of man who'd like to die on his feet instead of on his knees, begging for his life from some scumbag gangster. Kai's hand shot out of its own accord, locked on Curry's throat. In that same instant, Kai heard a click from below. He looked down, saw that the gavel-head cane had a barrel sticking out of it, a barrel centimeters from his crotch. You'll want to let me go now, Curry said. Kai actually thought about it for a second. He hadn't been insulted like that in a long, long time. And yet, wasn't Curry right? Hadn't Kai run? Hadn't he changed his identity to hide away from Greedock the Splithead? Even though he'd spent 2 years on this turd-shaped space rock, he hadn't really considered the big picture. The full breadth of what he'd done over the last 2 years finally hit him. Kai let go. His face felt hot. He'd run. He'd hidden. He'd given up his identity for safety. He'd given up his soul. The Quith think I'm a warrior, he said softly. I guess I'm not. I have no honor. I didn't understand that until just now. His own voice sounded strange to him. He sounded like a broken man. That's exactly what he was. Every sentient's got demons, Curry said. The fight game used you up and spit you out. Your homeland didn't give a damn about you. I watched that bout between you and Korak. Ain't never seen a man fight like that in my whole life, and I've been around a long time. You've got honor, boy. You've got it in spades. You just lost track of it is all. Curry reached into his pocket and removed something metallic, the size of Kai's palm. He tossed it on the table. It slid, came to a stop. A badge. You say you lost your honor, Curry said. He nodded toward the badge. That there is the road map to find it again. You put that badge on. You can be Kyle North no matter what you decide to call yourself. You take on all comers. You're a shell of what you were. I can tell that even though I never met you before, but I also smell my own. There's iron in you, boy. Wear that badge and let it come out again. You're a fighter. So this time, fight for something bigger than just yourself. Kyle picked up the badge. He turned it over in his hand. It's like you think this thing is magic or something, he said. Curry nodded. It is. It's a talisman. And it will probably get you killed. But if it does, you die as you, soul and honor intact. If I know people like I think I do, that's something that you want, something you didn't think you'd get to do. Kai tossed the badge lightly up into the air, let it drop back into his palm. Does the job pay? Not worth a damn, Curry said. But it's enough to buy a place of your own, and you won't starve. Kai tossed the badge up again, caught it again. So I just put this on, and boom, I'm a lawman? Ain't that easy. You came from Break My Back. That's next on our list. You know the town. You know the players, the heavy hitters. We want you to go back there. Why? It's going to be the seat of a second county. We need to send a message. You know who Omig Valenti is? Kai nodded. We want him alive, Curry said. We want to put him on trial for crimes against Reef citizens. smuggling, racketeering, and murder, to name a few. We want everyone to see what happens to gangsters like him. In return for your faithful service, you'll receive a full pardon for any crimes committed in Break My Back or in Kira, and you get the badge free and clear. The idea had instant appeal. Valenti was a scumbag. He was also the most powerful man in Break My Back. He'd sent Gabriel and Tong. Kai had to hand it to Curry. The price of regaining honor was steep indeed. How, exactly, am I supposed to bring Valenti in? Figure it out, Curry said. We can't give you a lot of resources, but at the same time, there ain't a lot of rules. Be creative. Clean up the town, Marshal North. Marshal North. The words were a song about a hero, someone who gave a damn about something other than himself. But Kai had never been that guy. He didn't deserve a chance like this. He thought about dynamite, wrinkled old dynamite, and the garbage that man had tolerated just to make a living. Then he thought about Dahlia, her razor nails, how she made her living. Maybe Kai didn't deserve a chance, but those two did. And so did another sentient. I need a deputy. Fair enough, Curry said. We've been training a few good... No, I already got him picked out. Who? Ghoulie. Curry's brows knitted together. Just so I'm clear, you're talking about that hurrah who tore up the bathhouse with you? Kai nodded. I take it you just met him. Kai nodded again. Son, let me give you some education. That hurrah killed a young man named Balor Craith in the Jupiter Net Colony. Balor was born on the reef. His dad was Cerna Craith, who used to run the Flathead gang and Break My Back. Ghoulie is also wanted for a murder in the Planetary Union and one in the Quith Concordia. Kai blinked. Curry, are you telling me that Ghoulie is an intergalactically known assassin? That's one way to put it, sure. This time, Kai couldn't hold back the laugh. We'll all be. So, Curry said, back to the sentients I've been training. Is Ghoulie wanted for murder of anyone on the reef? Curry obviously didn't like being interrupted. No, he ain't. But after what happened in the bathhouse, Ghoulie is my deputy or I'm out, Kai said. He gets forgiven for any damage from the bathhouse fight because he was saving me from a man named Gabriel. Oh, right. Was a man named Gabriel arrested? Curry shook his head. You sure? Nobody with a face like an overcooked pizza? Just you and your winged friend. Friend. Yeah, that's what Ghoulie was. Not the best friend ever or anything like that, but Kai had few friends, and only one of them had saved his life. Gabriel was still out there, which meant he was still coming after Kai and Ghoulie both. I'll get Valenti for you, Kai said, but only if Ghoulie is my deputy. Any and all charges against him are dropped, and you make sure he can't be extradited off the reef by anyone for any reason. Curry thought it over. He saved your life, huh? Kai held up 2 fingers. Curry sighed, nodded. Twice. Imagine that. I understand that's a powerful debt to repay. All right. I can push it through if that's what it takes. That's what it takes. One more thing, Curry said. I told you the Marshal Service is new. It's also proven to be a high-risk endeavor. 4 marshals are out trying to clean up various towns. With them, me, Pam, and Lynette the Knife, that's the warrior who brought you in, there's only 7 of us. You and Ghoulie would be the 8th and 9th. 7 active marshals. Not exactly a big pool when it came to backup. High risk, Kai said. Just how many marshals have died, Marshal? 8. Would be nice for you 2 to join us so we get our survival percentage up above 50. That'll help for recruiting. More than half the marshals had died. Wonderful. But death would be better than continuing life with no honor. And who knew? Kai might actually pull it off. I'm in. The old man's sour expression slowly turned into a smile. He offered Kyle his hand. They shook. Curry walked back to his desk and pressed a key on a pad set into the desktop. Send them in, he said. A few moments later, the doors to Curry's office swung wide. Panama entered, along with a tall Quyth warrior who'd placed Kai under arrest. They both wore the badge of a REEF marshal. He's in? Panama asked Curry. Curry nodded. It may be a short tenure, but he'll make the attempt. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Kai said. Panama clapped him on his broad back. I like your chances, she said. The warrior extended a middle arm, offering his 3-fingered hand. A human gesture. Kai shook.
You will prevail,
the warrior said.
Kovacs soul watches over you, gives you strength.
Kai had never thought about it like that. But he had eaten Kovacs' heart, so maybe there was something to it. What's your name?
Lynette the Knife,
the warrior said.
Once you finish your work and break my back, if it is not too great an imposition, perhaps you and I could fight.
From any other species, a strange request. From a warrior, it meant he held Kai in the highest possible esteem. Maybe, Kai said. If I don't die, then maybe. Panama leaned close to Kai, sniffed, wrinkled her nose. Come on, Marshal, she said. Maybe you were arrested getting a bath, but after your time in that cell, you need another. I don't know. It didn't work out so well for me last time. Panama patted the hilt of her spitter. Don't worry. I'll stand guard over you. Outside the bath or in it with me? Curry shook his head. No fraternizing in the workplace, Panama. Do you need to watch that sentient resources holo again? She flashed her half-smile at the man. Ain't no bath in this building, she said. Therefore, it wouldn't be the workplace, right? Curry rolled his eyes. Clean him up, he said. Don't touch him, he don't touch you, got it? Let's put this man to work. An hour later, Kai's role was reversed. Now he was the one tossing a badge onto the tabletop, a deputy marshal badge.
I hope you are a good fighter,
Ghoulie said.
because you're the worst comedian I've ever met.
It's not a joke. They were alone in Curry's office. Curry and the others had let Kai be the one to make the pitch. Ghoulie stared at the badge. At least, Kai thought Ghoulie was staring at the badge. Hurrah had sensory pits, not eyes, and you couldn't really tell what they were looking at.
I'm a criminal,
Ghoulie said.
I am an intergalactically
Known assassin. Yeah, I'm aware. Wanted in the Union, the Nation, and the Concordia. You need to start anew, or you'll wind up dead.
I don't need help from you. I know how to lay low.
Kai nodded. Like you did from Gabriel and Tong? Ghoulie didn't respond. This is your chance at something bigger, Kai said, cringing inside just a bit at how his words sounded like Curry's. But if Curry's offer was legit, weren't those words valid? Maybe you sneak onto the next transport and get off the reef. Maybe you're spotted and snagged. Maybe you're clipped when the transport gets wherever it's going. You're a hunted sentient, Ghoulie. You can be free here.
Free, on the reef. Such a grand place to live, Lash.
Name's actually Kyle North. You can call me Kai. Ghoulie didn't react. I said my name is Kyle North.
Never heard of you.
You're kidding me. Kyle North, the heretic?
You don't have to overcompensate because you're the one who's not intergalactically known, Lash.
Kai shook his head. Doesn't matter. What matters is if you can join me on this. There's a steady paycheck involved.
How big?
Kai realized he hadn't asked for an actual amount. Enough, he said. If you take this gig, you can't be extradited to the Nation, the Union, or anywhere else. How's that sound?
Sounds like you're ready to eat the cake the establishment made for you.
Ghoulie meant it as a cutting statement, but it was spot on. I'm tired of running, Kai said. Tired of hiding. I'm betting you are too. I'm making the reef my home. Permanently. You can do the same. Ghoulie floated over the table. His mouth flaps reached down, picked up the badge.
Me, a cop,
he said.
I hate cops.
Kai had put his own badge on a chain Panama had given him. He wore it around his neck, under his Ridgebacks jersey. He flipped a finger under the chain, lifted the badge out, let it drop against his sternum. I hate cops too, he said. Plenty of sentients spend their lives wallowing in self-hate. Why not us? Ghoulie flipped the deputy badge from one mouth flap to the other. Think about it this way, Kai said. You get a gun.
Gun? You're calling those ball-bearing firing things a gun?
The spitter will kill if you shoot it right. Or use a knife. Or a club. I don't care. Whatever you use, the next time someone comes to put you in a drum case, you can kill them, and it's totally legal. Ghoulie rotated in midair, sensory pits all seeming to point toward Kai.
What about Gabriel? He'll still be hunting me.
Kai reached out, tapped Ghoulie's badge. Carry that, and you get to hunt him. A pause. Kai sensed that Ghoulie was staring at the badge.
I'm not a good sentient,
the Hurrah said.
I'll be honest with you. I don't care about the law that much. If I wear this badge and get to go after Gabriel, I won't arrest him. I'll kill him.
Kai couldn't see a downside to that. As long as we get Valenti, you won't hear any complaints from me.
I can get Valenti for you. Tell me where he lives, I wait until he goes to sleep, I give him a needle, and he dies.
He's got guards, Kai said, and he's in a building with only one entrance. How are you going to get past his guards?
One entrance for a walking mountain like you, maybe. There isn't a building ever made I can't sneak into.
Kai had once thought of Ghoulie as boastful, a braggart who talked big game to try and impress or intimidate sentients far larger than he was. But it turned out he hadn't been bragging at all. Maybe you can get to him, Kai said. But to keep these jobs, to make sure we can't be extradited, we have to bring Valenti in alive. That's the deal. Ghoulie flipped the badge from flap to flap again.
That's stupid,
he said. Take it or leave it, Kai said. We bring Valenti in alive. Together. Are you in or are you out? Ghoulie paused, then slid the badge inside his metal backpack.
I'm in.
That was episode number 8 of The Reef. I hope you are enjoying the story. Speaking of stories, I have a brand new original story out in print. It is called The Last Child. It is an original tale from the universe of the Generations trilogy series. That series consists of my novels, Alive, Alight, and Alone. It is published by Del Rey Books. The Last Child appears in the anthology Wastelands, The New Apocalypse, edited by John Joseph Adams. It's out now in paperback and ebook. The audiobook should be coming soon. If you want to find links to snag this book and read my story, visit scottsigler.com/book/wastelands- and the number 3. That's scottsigler.com/book/wastelands-3. I do warn you, this is not a happy story. If you've already read the Generations trilogy, you will love it. If you haven't read the Generations trilogy, WTF? What's wrong with you? Snag book 1, Alive, and get rolling. Find links for that one at scottsigler.com/alive. That is it for this week. We will be back next week with The Reef, episode number 9. And until then, I will talk to you all real soon. You have been listening to The Reef, a Galactic Football League novella. Written by Scott Sigler and Matt Wallace. Narrated by Scott Sigler. Audiobook directed by AB Kovacs and engineered by Steve Riekeberg. Copyright 2019 by Empty Set Entertainment. All rights reserved. Theme music is by the band Amps and Volts.